Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Jazakallah khair for joining me as I go through different hadiths pertaining to the virtues and rulings of the Qur'an. So today we're going to go through a hadith mentioned in the Muwatta of Imam Malik and is graded Jayyid or Hasan. And it's where he sent a letter to a companion called Amr ibn Hazm. And it said in it, the Prophet ﷺ said in it, none can touch the Qur'an except the pure. So these are very similar words to a Quranic ayat in Surah Waqi'ah. But the Quranic ayah, the majority of scholars say, is for the angels. They're the only ones pure enough to touch the Lawh al-Mahfuz up in the highest heaven. So this hadith is pertaining to the pure of the of mankind. So we'll go through some rulings with this. And firstly, the word tahara is used in this hadith, and this means pure. So a few scholars have said that it means pure in action and character and iman, etc., etc. But when it comes to fiqh and sharia wise, the vast majority of scholars say that tahara is used instead of the words ghusl and wudu. So another example of this is a hadith narrated by Muslim on the authority of Abu Malik al-Ashari, where the Prophet ﷺ said, At-tuhuru shatrul iman. Purity is half of faith. So if the word tuhur means wudu, that means wudu is half of faith. What's the other half? It would be your salah, because there's no salah without wudu. And this is the consensus of all four madahibs, that you are not allowed to touch the mushaf without wudu, and this is the consensus of the four madahibs. So how about a translation of the Qur'an? Can you touch this without wudu? The answer is yes, you can, because as soon as it's translated into another language, if it's no longer the Arabic Qur'an, then it is no longer considered to be the Qur'an. However, if it also has the Quranic ayat in them, then you will need wudu. How about your phone or tablet? Here is where there's a difference of opinion, as this is quite a new topic. So a minority of scholars have said, the majority of scholars have said that it's okay to touch your phone while reading the Quran and without wudu. But a minority of scholars have said that while the Quran app is open, then you must have wudu. But if it's not open, you don't need wudu other than that. But this seems rather weak, as this is only a temporary thing and is not an actual mushaf. So after all this, I'll tell you that when doing any act of worship, it is always recommended to have wudu, but it's not necessary. You still get rewarded for wudu, and this reminder is far too short to go into the benefits of wudu. It's immense how great wudu is. So now let's go one step further and talk about when you're in the state of janaba, major ritual impurity, you are not allowed to even recite the Qur'an. And this is the view of the Hanafi, Hanbali and Shafi'i madhabs. The Maliki school of thought, they have some exceptions here, such as if a woman was a hafidh or has memorized some of the Qur'an and she feared that she would forget some of this Qur'an, she could go over this if necessary. But it is better to do it in your head, or even listening through an MP3 player. Another reason is if she is a teacher. So if she's teaching Qur'an to anybody, she is allowed to carry on teaching. However, the best thing to do is once again get a recording of the Qur'an if she needs to play the entire ayat and have them repeat after them, or if they are reciting, only correct a word or two here and there. Don't recite the entire ayat. So these are all workarounds that are more preferable than actually reciting the entire Qur'an. Now we get to the argument that how can you deprive women of reading the Qur'an for such a long time? They're missing out on so much barakah, so much reward. And then to this we say, remember, as-salah is a greater form of ibadah, and this has been prohibited by Allah. And so they should not think that because they're missing out on reading the Quran, they're going to lose out on all of the great rewards. There's also other forms of ibadah that can take place. There's listening to the Quran, making dua, reading dhikr, and reading translations and tafsirs as well. And lastly, I want to tackle one last issue. It is not necessary to wear the hijab when reciting from the Quran. It is not necessary to make the religion harder for others by saying it is. If you want to wear the hijab while reciting, go ahead, be my guest. But it should not be encouraged and trying to get other people to do it as well and making up your own rulings. I just wanted to be clear with that. So may Allah make us of those who sincerely make tawbah and who purify themselves. Allahumma ja'alni min at-tawwabin wa ja'alni min al-mutatahhirin. May Allah give us the reward of the wudu and make sure we do not neglect how great this reward is. And may Allah help us to recite His book more frequently. Ameen wa jazakumullahu khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.